Good morning, Detective. You slept well?
I'm afraid I did not. I was hoping for at least a moment of pleasure. Finding the Major's killer is the only...
In that case... In that snow? If someone was out there...
I realize how strange it sounds. I would...
Stop. I'm afraid our Lizzie is not well. I think the events of yesterday were too much.
As well...
She is currently eating breakfast alone in the dining room. It's how she prefers. I would, but I'm afraid I found this morning that the telephone lines aren't working. Even if we could use the telephone.
In that case, it will be up to...
I'll let you know if anything changes. But until some of the snow clears, enough... Taken care of. Master Dremir and his brother, after sobering up, helped me move him into the cellar.
Très bien. I imagine there is no reason for any...
Besides me, no.
Your assistant has been most...
Good morning, Detective. I hope you are
Bonjour, mademoiselle. The room was more than pleasant, merci.
I can't imagine any of us slept.
Hopefully guilt will be weighing heavily on some...
I'm sorry if I was not much help last...
On the...
His position?
Oui, even in a house this...
I enjoyed having him here. When I was away with Gideon, it was comforting to know Maman was not alone. Oh,
what can you tell me about their relationship?
there is not... He was always quite private about his work. I know that...
I found a check addressed to the Major from Monsieur da Silva. It noted...
Ah, that... A development? Oh, Detective,
It may not be the news you had wished for, though.
Addressed to me? I don't know how much...
Pardonnez-moi, mademoiselle. Although it has been written in the same manner used...
I'm sorry, Detective, I don't understand...
I found it in...
Heavens no, he couldn't...
You did not hesitate for a moment.
Why would...
Merci for your time, mademoiselle. You are to a detective...
Useful?
Exactement. Aha. Ah. Huh. Bonjour, madame. May I...
Thank you, detective, but they are not.
I was hoping you would be prepared.
I'm sure you're aware he was not the easiest man to get along with.
A hot temper is reason enough.
His mouth... Seeing as I heard Mr. Becker's in what I would describe as an...
You heard them yourself.
How could I not? The volume they were shouting at, I could hear...
You did not think it fitting to tell me this yesterday?
I didn't think Felix was going to wind up dead and a murderer loose in my house. I assume you are talking about the...
Oui, madame.
It arrived shortly after the first.
I'm not sure I understand what...
He no doubt had secrets hidden away. But do you honestly think Felix...
Perhaps you should enlighten...
Well, he was here... I wouldn't put it past him to have written it himself, in the hopes of getting some sympathy.
And the other...
He probably wrote those too. If Angeline paid the first, that would have given him the money to pay the second letter. He is the White Knight. What is it you wish to know?
You two have been friends for some time now.
If you are trying to insinuate that Mr. De Silva and I are running around like schoolchildren...
Oui, I understand they worked together.
Miss...
Merci, madame. Huh. Aha. Oh. Mhm. Oh. Oh. Bonjour, madame. You must be...
Wonderful and modest. So
My taste buds thank you for the ravishing meal last night.
glad to hear it, sir.
S'il te plaît, madame. Detective...
In that case, mademoiselle is fine for me, and I will ignore your presumption of marriage.
Très bon, mademoiselle.
That's right. I've seen staff come and go.
I agree. But if I was to eat what you prepare every day,
Not a bad thing, detective.
well...
I did. Monsieur Archie told me what had happened.
How was the Major when you...
Grumpy, as always.
I suppose one would not take kindly to being
Punched or not.
I shall not keep you any longer.
Is there something I can...
I shall not keep you any longer.
Whatever you need.
Your assistant has... Magnifique. I must act on thought. I cannot see the logic in this. This will not get me any closer to... What a revelation! Oh.
Whatever you need, Detective.
Your assistant had...
Is there something I can... You have got the wrong end of the stick, Detective. Maman has snapped at him recently, but it was something to do with the letter. I heard them in the library before Maman shouted.
Could it have been the blackmail letter?
Why would Maman be upset with it?
Madame is of a very different opinion from yourself regarding his connection with the letters. She believes him to...
That... I don't recall telling him directly. I did not want Maman to find out it had been paid. If he knew, surely she would.
Madame believes he may have been behind all the letters, and taking your payment of the first, then used it to pay the second and be the hero in you and your mother.
I never knew Maman had such an imagination. Where would she get a story?
That is a question I was hoping you maybe...
You have met him? Do you really think he's capable of such a devious plan?
It is a plan only the most crooked and underhanded could create. Is that the Major? I am... I shall not keep you any longer. Another success.
Is there something I can help? I'm afraid it had been that way for some time. Maman is not forthcoming with her emotions, as I'm sure you are aware. But I could tell she had not been happy.
What gave you that impression?
There was not one particular...
I shall not keep you any longer.
Whatever you need.
Your assistant ha... Oh. Huh. Huh. Countess, I wonder if I could...
That is it, detective?
I am afraid not, Countess. With the murderer still loose in...
Well then, detective. Perhaps.
Comment?
I thought you might like... That certainly piqued your interest.
A man has been murdered, and you find it acceptable to...
Oh, please, detective. Do you really think so little of me? Archibald asked for my assistance. He knows of my medical training from my days as a nurse.
It was not his place to grant you access to the body.
I shall remember... A single stab wound, which you no doubt already knew. The night... Judging by the depth of the wound, I would say there was no great force put into the If I had to say what weapon was used, a small sharp knife or dagger.
I understand it may be difficult for one to keep such information to yourself, but I ask you to try. Your S'il vous plaît, Comtesse. Bonjour, Monsieur Damier.
Detective Poirot.
The truth, Monsieur. With each step towards uncovering the blackmail...
Is there something Archibald came to me and asked for my help in the matter.
Merci for your help. It is a job that only the
It's a job that had to be done. Although it may have affected my brother more than I.
How so?
At the sight of the body, the color drained from his face. Once we had reached the cell, Felix and Madame Vandenbosch are the only ones with keys, as far as I'm aware. Oh, and Archibald. I'm sure. I have not seen him since last night. I'm sure he will have... He does not need his younger brother checking in on him.
Perhaps that is exactly what he requires.
I'm not sure what he told you yesterday, detective, but he's a big boy.
I worry that may not be the case, monsieur. His time in the war came up in conversation more than once during...
He's still talking about it. I thought talking to the doctor would have stopped all of it.
Merci.
Whatever you need.
Your assistance has been... Is there something I am... Order and method. Come, my little grey cells. The pieces of the puzzle are fine.
If it will help you. When he returned from the war, he was a different...
I cannot speak from experience.
The first weeks he would wake in the night, screaming. I found him one night, cowering behind the desk in the study. And when I tried to help him out from...
That is not why you two are no longer...
And not at all, detective. We were always very different in nature. While I had...
And yet, he ended up in the military.
Our father demanded that he at least try to do something with his life. It wasn't long before he moved out from the family home after his return from the army. I always assumed that he had put the war and everything.
Whatever you need. Sir.
Ah. Aha. Aha. Ah. I must take a different approach if I am to uncover. Order and method. That is the way. Is there something I am... I cannot see the logic in this. Things are beginning to become clear. I should not be surprised by my own... Come, my little grey cells. I must act on thought and fact. Some would say a lucky guess. become clearer.
Detective Poirot, I have been asked to inform you that Lady Van den Bosch has returned to her room, and she wished...
Merci. Madame certainly has mastered the art of...
They may not be the exact words she used, but I'm sure you can imagine.
Oh. This will not get me any closer to... I must take a different approach if I am... Is there something... The pieces of the puzzle are finally coming...
Detective Poirot, what?
I have something I wish.
Well, I hope it is important enough to...
I assure you it is.
Good, because this has gone on far too long. Well,
I can understand your frustration.
you were once an incompetent officer, and now it seems you are just as
If I was not being lied to and misled at every turn, perhaps.
I hope you are not suggesting I had some...
I am suggesting that if I had the support that everyone claims they are offering, we would be.
If you have something you want to ask, We met before Angeline was born, so he was often at the house when she was growing up.
And where was it you two met?
I was attending an event. Felix was also in attendance as a serving officer.
So it was not through the Viscount that you two.
I did not require my husband to start conversations on my behalf.
It was you that instigated it then.
My, detective. That active imagination of yours has taken you... Edwin spent much of his time away on business before Angeline was born. Felix was a welcome distraction from the loneliness.
You were alone in the house.
The staff continued their duties, of course, but trying to get any sort of sophisticated or cultured conversation from them was like drawing blood from a stone.
And when Angeline was born?
Edwin remained at home. It was his duty as a father.
And the Major?
He had his own business and life to tend to, but we remained in touch via letter. Around the time of Edwin's passing, I'm sure he has hundreds of letters in there. Most of them could and should have been thrown away a long time ago.
I refer to the letter addressed to you. The
Romantic nature. Oh, please, detective. Felix...
He made his intentions quite clear in the letter. I must admit I myself was surprised.
You really do have quite the active imagination, detective. If that is how you wish to interpret it, so be it. But I can assure you, the main...
I think that is all for now. Ah. Come, my little grey cells. I must take a different approach. Order and method. That it. What a revelation!
Is this real? He may have stayed in my home, but Felix was a grown man, detective. what he kept, hidden or...
But it does not surprise you that he had.
We have been friends, and he has been there for Angeline for many years. But you find it strange that he...
What I do find strange is that if he did hold a flame for you, what?
If he did, it was not reciprocated. I have not even
I think that is all for now.
Detective Poirot, are you in?
I am, mademoiselle. I can confirm.
So the author is still...
Oui, but it will not be long before they are apprehended, and the only letters they shall be penning will be...
You're confident? I'm sorry, Detective.
No apology is required. It actually made me question my whole chain of thinking. What if there had been a collusion between them?
Oh my, Detective, that is quite...
Every guest has a motive. You confirmed that with the mention of Mademoiselle Conrad and the Major's fight. Supplying one another with a rock-solid alibi.
But not you.
Correct.
I haven't seen that book in so long. Yes, it was a gift for my 10th birthday. I have read it from cover to...
It sounds as though there is a side to the Major I did not get to see.
Not There were. I'm afraid they may have gathered some dust being in the storage room for so long. I kept them in hope of giving them to my
It sounds as though he had always cared about you.
His presence at the house was comforting for us both after Father died, even if sometimes he was a... That's right. Ever since I can remember, Felix has been...
It seems as though she has a number of support networks. The Major, her friendship with the Countess, not forgetting Monsieur that...
Maman has many friends. I know how she may seem to most, but once you break the...
There is a further shell waiting to be broken.
Oh, very good,
Forgive me, mademoiselle. I own...
It's quite all right. You're not the only one that feels a razor tongue. She's grateful you are here, especially now, whether she shows it or not. They have often come to blows when it concerns Maman. They are both trying to protect her, but they themselves cannot seem to get along.
She spoke of his desire to join the... how do you describe it?
This isn't the first time she has vocalized that concern. She thinks the Major was just using our family name.
And you do not agree?
I will not deny he has shown interest in Maman's social circles, but they have been friends since even before I was born. Surely all those years... How do you mean, Detective?
I imagine a house of this size is rather costly, keeping it in the immaculate
Maman looks after the financial side of the house, but I think she has had to ask him more than once for a contribution of sorts.
I shall not keep you any longer. I cannot see the logic in this. Perhaps a Some would say a lucky guess. This will not get me any closer. I must act on thought and Is there something I am not seeing? Another success. I
Is this really Who I allow in my house is none of your business. I do not have to explain anything.
did not think you were one for charity.
I would not expect you to think much of anything. There is no need to talk on it any further. Need I repeat myself, detective? There is no... Men and women can remain friends without any romantic You're... How many times do I have to tell you? There was no... I have grown weary of this conversation. I have explained this to you already.
Madame, you continue to with...
And you continue to get on my last nerve. I am...
But when it impedes my investigation...
Believe what you wish. You clearly have no idea what you... My personal life has nothing to do with your investigation. Who I allow in my house is...
I did not think you were one...
I would not expect... He was a man that required no protection, detective.
That is the impression I had of him, which is why your defensive...
Your continued probing into something that does not exist. There is nothing I can tell you that will matter. I have...
Madame, you continue to with...
And you continue to get on my
But when it impedes my
If only you were this
Madame.
Very well. I did not lie about how we met. I was attending an It had been some time since I had returned home, and was rather missing English soil. He was a warm reminder of home, and I enjoyed conversing with him. We shared. I shall go no further with the details, but I will say, I had no intention on being unfaithful to my husband.
The Viscount never questioned Mademoiselle's birth?
In his mind, he had no reason to, and he shouldn't have had to. It was my mistake to bear. I told Felix that he was to stay away, but he had no intention to. He became an uncle. I could not tell her the truth. Too much.
And what were the Major's thoughts on revealing the truth?
He wanted to tell her everything. He wanted her to know exactly who he was, but I told him no. It would not have been the poignant reconciliation. I tried to retrieve them from the safe after everyone had retired last night, but when I opened the safe...
When I entered the study this morning, they were as visible as a red notice on a police station wall.
I would appreciate if you did not compare them to the face of our...
Pardon,
But that does mean someone else in the house has seen them.
a mystery that is still yet...
It must be. But I have told...
And the Major?
Felix promised me he wouldn't tell a soul, and I believed him.
You did not think anyone knew, and that is why you disregarded...
If you...
I think that is all for now.
Detective Poirot, how is your investigation coming?
Monsieur Sterling, I must admit, I have learned much more.
You'll be wrapping the case.
One has never finished learning, monsieur, and
It might help to vocalize.
Monsieur, would you gather?
Right away, Detective.
I shall reveal all once everyone is together.